Monday, everybody. You tuned into Real Talk with Mary J. I am your host, Mary J. I wish you guys a happy Merry Monday all around the world. We have gotten away from the myth of a Blue Monday. You can have a happy Merry Monday right where you are. Real Talk with Mary J is a social outlet for a positive outcome, and we're keeping it real and positive on today. I wish you all a very happy 4th of July. I hope it was great. I hope you enjoyed yourselves all over the world. We are free. We're liberated. And I want us to know that freedom is a mindset on today. I want you to know that. Listen, guys, we've been sharing with Real Talk with Mary J. We had some positive guests that have come on that has been impactful and empowering. And I have shared with me a special guest on today. I am elated to share with her. She's been on my show before. She's no stranger to Real Talk with Mary J. And I want you all to know she was my very own therapist. When I walked through the process, she helped me through some hard, difficult situations, you guys. So I want you to tune in today. Go invite, go like, go share, go follow on today because you don't want to miss this conversation. I just released my new book, Intrigue, and guess what? It's very intriguing. Yes, it is. It's captivating. It's gonna meet you right where you are. It's thought-provoking. But I have on my show to share with me her personal live review of the chapter, How Much Do You Tolerate? How much do you tolerate? And listen, she is someone that is very skilled in her area. She's professional. She has a whole lot of wealth of information to share with you all. She's a licensed and clinical therapist. She is a social worker. Her name is Cassandra Smith, the owner of OPS Care Family Services. I want you all to welcome my guest on the show today, Cassandra Smith. Welcome, Cassandra.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning to you. I am so excited to have you sharing with me on today. As we take our listening audience through this process, through this journey, we've come a long way, girl. You helped me through some tough times, some challenging situations, and I am so forever grateful to you for that. But before we delve into this conversation of how much do we tolerate, will you let our listening audience all around the world know exactly who you are and all of what you do?
Yes, so good morning. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. My name is Cassandra Smith, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, clinical therapist. I specialize in treating families, high risk, children and families, as well as individual adults. I am the founder and executive director of OPS Family Care, as well as founder and lead consultant at CDS Healthcare Consulting. Which is my private consulting business where I I do trainings for colleagues, social workers, mental health professionals, consultation on business development, as well as consultation with accreditation and all of those things. So I'm excited to be here with Mary J. She knows I'm not a big TV interview, show my face kind of person. I like to do my work behind the scenes, but when Mary J asked, I definitely was excited to hear about her new book. So I was really ready to come on to the show. So I really appreciate you inviting me on, Mary.
Cassandra, listen, I am so humble and honored to have you as my special guest. And listen, I couldn't think of anybody else when I got to the chapter of how much do you tolerate, what guest that I would share that chapter with. Doing the process of just my spiraling downward, pardon me, everybody, going through my divorce and all of what I was experiencing at that time. You caught me in the place where I was pretty much at one of my lowest points in life, if not the very lowest. Just to go through a very devastating divorce, losing my job while I'm going through divorce, while I'm in counseling on my vacation, got terminated by email. And oh my gosh, and then I walk into your office. I remember the first time coming before you and being really, really reserved, not wanting to share much because look, I'm a pastor, right? I'm a woman of God. I counsel people all the time. Everybody come to me for encouragement, empowerment. I'm praying for everybody. And I'm sharing with everybody what to do and how to navigate through life. And now, whoa, it's me. And now I'm in your office. Thank God to my good friend who's a social worker that referred me to you. I appreciate her so very much. But now I'm in your office and I'm like, okay, I've never done this before. I don't think I need counseling right now. I've never shared my personal information with anybody, and I don't really know this lady, so I don't know about this, right? But just out of just sharing with my girlfriend and not having her to get so deeply and heavily involved in the process because of logistics, that she could not take me all the way through. She referred me to the right person. And I am so glad because process after process, time after time, being in your office, and I found myself in the beginning not wanting to open up to anybody at all, not wanting to go to any social worker, any therapist, any psychiatrist, and so full of pride, Cassandra, because I didn't want anybody knowing my business, right? I was like, I don't know.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to let you finish, and I was going to say some of what hurts us is pride.
Yeah. Full of pride, not wanting to share my information, not sure who would know you that may know me or know that I'm going to counseling. But during that time, I knew I had reached rock bottom. And there was a moment in time that I knew that I needed to speak to someone. I had to talk to someone. And of course, being a pastor and being in the church and being surrounded by so many powerful men and women of God, still reserved with walls up, because I'm thinking these are the same people I worship with, right? That's how we think. These are the same people I pray with. Do I really want them to know all of the depth of what I'm experiencing and then have to sit in the service and hear a word from them? Maybe they might be preaching my business the next Sunday. I'm going to just be real to you. Maybe the topic might be about me because, we get that spirit of offense too. And we're guarded and we're not sure if this person really talking about what I just talked to them about. So, Cassandra, I was very guarded. Yes, a pastor, I admit it. I was very guarded. So I understand while even lay members, have walls that they build up, and you have to develop a real relationship with God to understand the season of time that you're in. So now, in the process of my divorce, I'm writing this book. While I'm seeing you, visiting you in your office, I'm writing this book. So it's been many years ago that I started this journey of writing this book. And I came from being in your office in the beginning, being really wide and shut down and not wanting to share anything, to boo-hoo crying in your office, going past my time of my session. You having to book your appointments and reschedule, push some people back because I'm just sitting at your desk crying my eyes out. And I had never, ever cried before. Well, I'm not going to say never in life, but never over that situation. I had never released it. I had never really got it all out until then. So listen, I know you're not one to come on live and share. And I know there's some things that because of legalities, we have to keep confidential. I do understand that. But now, Intrigue, this thought-provoking book that God has given me to empower lives all over the world from all walks of life. I had a conversation with the Lord, and He knows your girl, right? So He knows that it was something that was heavy on my heart. And I was wondering, how many people are really dealing with things of this nature and really never address it in the pulpit. We never really address it in the church. And people leave wounded, worshiping, shouting, hollering, right? Spinning around, giving our neighbor high five, but leave really broken. Not dealing with it, not having anybody to talk to about it. So this book is very innovative, and it's reaching people right where they are. So how much do you tolerate? That's our topic on today. I know you had an opportunity to read the chapter, and just in your own words, step by step, whatever, however you want to take it. What is your overall review on how much do you tolerate? And then we're going to talk about how much I tolerated being going through what I went through, and how much you had to tolerate with me coming in your office all your time.
So what I will say is it definitely was written in such a way that you would have to pay someone to misunderstand it. So it's very clear, very concise. One of the things that stood out to me overall was just really what it seemed to be asking is, and this is in my words, how much beyond how much you're willing to tolerate, what is your worth? Who do you believe that you are? That's what I took away from it. Because it's very easy for us to say to someone else, you should not deal with that, or that's not okay, or you deserve better than that. It does not matter until that person believes that they deserve something more than what they are dealing with. So what I took away from it overall, the message is, who are you and what is your worth? And what do you believe your worth is? Because it doesn't matter. And we see this over and over. And please, men, know that I may say woman or women a lot just because I'm speaking from that perspective, but it's human beings.
Yeah.
But particularly, I see certain things that women really face. And that is, you can have multiple degrees. You can be beautiful. You can be well-spoken. You can have all of the things that would appear to make you successful, right, or of high value, right? Yes. But if you don't believe that, I see it over and over and over where there are women who have all of these wonderful things going for themselves, yet they still take what appears to be abuse. So one of the things that I've realized through all of my work is that it doesn't matter what we say to someone else. They have to believe, what am I worth? They have to believe who they are and what they're worth.
Yes, absolutely, Cassandra. Absolutely. As you were sharing and you were saying, what is your word and what do you tolerate? What are your beliefs? And that just resonated with me, because as I was writing the chapter, there were so many things looking back over the period of years of things that I tolerated. And I tolerated, and a lot of times we tolerate things because of our upbringing, because of what we were taught. We tolerate things because of tradition, and mama stayed through it, papa stayed through it, grandmama stayed through it, whatever it is, we tolerate certain things. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you can stay through some things, if you can endure some things and cause those things to be reformed and to be empowered in it and through it. But if it's depleting you, if it's draining you, if you feel that you're losing your sense of self, as you said, then you have to understand your tolerance level.
Yes.
I remember coming into your office, like I said, being really, really reserved and shut down, not wanting to let anybody in and not wanting to discuss too much, to going through everything, and I sized you up. I sized you up. I was like, now she's a young woman, and she's much younger than me, and like, why am I going to go and tell her all of this kind of thing? And then when I started, I think it was like maybe day 3 of the session that I had, it was like, okay, I opened up so much because you were beginning to peel the layers back. And in the process of all of that, Cassandra, one thing that I realized that I never cried And it didn't dawn on me until I was actually in your office and we were going through the counseling. You took me all the way back to my childhood. And I had to face some hard situations, some things that in my mind, I was like, hold on, I never dealt with that. You know, I went through the process. I navigated life because I'm just one of those type of persons. I have a high pain tolerance. I don't know, I have a very high pain tolerance. My daughter talks about that all the time, and a lot that you hear about in the chapter actually happened to me. I was burned in the fire. A stove actually blew up in my face, and I was burned from the top of my head.
Wow.
My hair lining was burned out. My brows were burned off. I lost lashes. All the back of my neck, the hair. I had a drawstring ponytail on the back of my head, and it had shriveled up to a Brillo pad. And I was like, oh my God, if I didn't have that ponytail on the back of my head, please, I would. And I was burned from the top of my forehead to the bottom of my chin. The doctors told me that I would have at least 3 months before I could begin to heal. Would you know that God, and this is no joke, if you guys go back and watch and follow me on social media, God healed me in 7 days. In 7 days, from top to bottom. All of this was burned. I was still doing live shows. I was coming on the network live at the radio station. We were live on social media. I had makeup on. We didn't have any close shots of my face, but I was burned from the top to the bottom. And when I went through that fire and got burned, while I was on the emergency table, I didn't want any medication. I don't like medication. I don't like using any type of drugs. And I didn't want medication. And the doctors were looking at me like, why don't you want any medication? Like my face was raw. It felt like an egg. That's the way I can describe it. Like an egg was crying on the side of my face, and I didn't want any medication. So I said all that to say, when you dig into the chapter of how much do you tolerate those things that you find, there's subliminal messages throughout. I know you saw that. It's all, metaphors throughout the book, but those things throughout, different little innuendos actually happen. It either happened to me or happened to someone that I'm very close to, or happened to someone that I've counseled. But the book, it comes alive. So how much do you tolerate? I didn't know that my pain level of tolerance reflected my level of tolerance in circumstances and situations, because I'm one of those persons that I would tolerate a whole lot. And when I'm out, I'm out. When I'm done, I'm done. I would try to stick it out to give a person a benefit of a doubt. And then once I realize, and I'm talking about relationship, partnership, business, all sorts of things, I would be like, okay, you know what? I've given this person some time. I've shared with them how I felt about this situation. They continue to do this. I'm done. But now, understanding, girl, look, you don't have to deal with all of that, right? You don't have to deal. You don't have to keep allowing people to resurface in your life and keep repeating the cycle over and over, dealing with all of this unnecessary trauma in your life. And I say in the book, there's things that we attract. We draw these things to us because when we continue to tolerate, we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us, how much we're going to take, how much we're going to let them get away with, and continue to just stay stuck. So, you shared with me, Miss Irons. Oh my God, and it wasn't until after, and I'm so thankful for the power of connection and that how our relationship has grown beyond the professional counseling session in your office to being more personable outside of the office as well, and confidential. So thank you, because when I tell you, you helped me through some tough times, you helped me through some tough times, you know. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, one of the things that stood out, you certainly welcome, and I think that you have to really, you did the work. One of the things that I always say to people is that I don't have a magic wand. So it's really the work is on your side of the table. I'm just there to facilitate what you're already capable of. But one of the things that stood out to me was you said, what you learned or what you thought you had to take or what you thought was the norm. One of the things that has created such toxicity for our community is the norms that we have learned. So we have learned it's normal to endure pain.
Right.
And one of the reasons that continues generations and generations is because that is a residue and a residual effect of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
When you even compared your physical ability to endure pain and you didn't realize you had a high pain tolerance, what many people don't know is that is also a direct result of experiencing traumatic events, because what happens is you become numb.
Exactly.
And so oftentimes, not only are you emotionally numb, but you've trained yourself to not even respond to physiological cues that your body gives you when you're sleepy, when you're tired, when you're hungry, when something is wrong, because you've been trained or you've been, I guess, indoctrinated to endure a certain level of pain by ignoring it. And that is a direct result of trauma. And that's something that you don't hear a lot about when you hear people talk about trauma. And what we also know is that's why we have a lot of the health conditions we have. When we often talk about African Americans and the disparate health conditions and issues that we have with our health, we have to also put that in context, that our DNA, our physiological DNA, has been changed after years and years of trauma. That is not an accident. Yes, there is a component that has to do with our lack of early intervention in healthcare. I believe there's also a component that has to do with disparate treatment or discriminatory treatment, healthcare access, all of those things. But there's also a component that has to do with residual effects of generational trauma. So because of that, our bodies are not, we are definitely resilient, fighting people. And yes, I'm speaking to African American people, because if you look at generationally what we have endured in our physical bodies, in our physiological and psychological minds and beings, and we're still thriving, that is phenomenal, because it certainly takes a toll on your body. So I'm not surprised to hear you say you have a high tolerance for physical pain, because that connection to trauma also affects how we respond to physiological pain. Many people with trauma have fibromyalgia, and we don't necessarily know the why, but it's definitely a connection. And fibromyalgia is one of those diseases that you really don't understand. They kind of just say, maybe it's, something to do with the autoimmune. We don't really know, but it's kind of a pain disease, but not really understanding why the pain is there. Well, I believe that I've treated people that I can see it intertwined and it goes together and it's comorbid. So it goes with the trauma and psychological trauma they've endured. So it all plays a part. And so what happens is, if our bodies have learned, you don't need to take care of me, I'm going to be okay, just ignore it, that will continue and ultimately lead to serious health conditions as well, because you ignore your body, because you've had to. And that's what you've been taught to do as well.
Wow. You guys, do you see why this lady was my therapist? Do you see? Cassandra, that is powerful information. I never even processed it that way. I didn't even realize that my pain tolerance was so high until my daughter brought it to my attention. And then I started thinking about over my life. I was pregnant at 16 years old. I got married at 16 and had a baby at age 17. And at 17 years old, with my first baby, I wanted a natural childbirth. And I didn't want any epidural, anything. And the doctors were looking at me like, do you feel this pain?
Why? Right.
Like, the contractions are coming so hard, so strong, and so fast. And they were like, do you feel this? And I was sitting there like, like not wanting to talk a whole lot because I can feel it, but it was mind over matter for me, and I navigated through it. So from childbirth to a whole lot of things that happened in my life, because I was so young at the time, and I just navigated through life. See, my coping mechanism, and you'll hear about that for my readers who would purchase the book, but my coping mechanism for me was to keep moving, to keep moving. And so I dealt with my pain through indulging in my work. You know, I'm multi-talented, I'm multi-skilled, and I'm not saying that for bragging rights, but for most of us that are that way, we deal with life through doing things and keeping busy and staying. And when I say keeping busy, there's some people that keep busy doing nothing. But I'm talking about I can work on like multiple projects at one time, and it's like an adrenaline for me. But what you're saying now makes a whole lot of sense why I'm able to function that way. And I got through life, like I said, coping, indulging myself in my work. Some people get addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. I was addicted to work. And I didn't realize that I was coping all those years because I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I had to be a wife and a mother. I dealt with a lot of pain. I dealt with domestic violence and physical and verbal and mental abuse. I dealt with all of these things. So you're absolutely right. I never even realized that the pain that I was experiencing had to do with a lot of trauma that I went through. That's why I was able to get burned from top to bottom and not want to take any medicine. I broke my foot and didn't want medicine. And then I had to take medicine because I was like, okay, this is a whole different level of pain here. And I finally took something for it, but I did not continue taking it. And I was working in the house, and I was getting some things done, renovating and getting some things done in the house. And I had a cabinet that was mounted on the kitchen wall. I didn't know that it wasn't properly complete. It was not all the way drilled into the wall, and I filled it with groceries and canned goods and all of this stuff. And I'm cooking in the kitchen again, and the cabinet falls off the wall on the side of my face. The same side where I had the fire got burned, and I'm holding this cabinet up with my neck and my face, yelling for my daughter and my mom to come running and help me get this cabinet up, filled with canned goods. Never went to the doctor for it, any of that. Later on, started having some soreness in my shoulder, so I did like a teledoctor, went on and virtual visit and got a prescription for pain medicine. But I didn't do that until it was like 2 weeks later. My daughter had to really say, "Mom, listen," because she'll see me grunting and doing it. She's like, "You gotta go and take care of that. You need to go." And I was like, "I don't feel like sitting in the hospital. I don't want to sit in emergency. I don't have that kind of time. I got things to do." She was like, "Well, go online and do a virtual visit." And I did it to kind of like, keep them quiet and not have the word. I did it. But you have just given me a whole different perspective on all of this. Never saw that. Never related it in any sort of way, at all. That I hope our listening audience is hearing all of this today. I hope
one of the trainings that I do is on intergenerational trauma, and it's really geared to mental health professionals. But that's some of the takeaways. Is that of course, there's a study that many mental health professionals and other people may have heard, the public has heard of, probably adverse childhood experiences. You have to kind of go back and look at some of those experiences to connect how they actually affect what you are enduring or what you are experiencing today. And there's actual scientific research. In fact, one of the researchers is right here out of Tulane University about the Stacy Drury, I believe it is Dr. Drury, and her research talks about how our actual DNA is in terms of the lifespan. There's a piece on the end of our DNA that is shortened after we endure multiple childhood traumas. And that can actually affect our lifespan and our health. So this is not something that, is a mystery anymore. We understand there's been studies with Holocaust survivors, children, and those studies talk about how intergenerational trauma there. So this is something that we know is newly studied, and there are not a lot of studies, but we do understand that there's a connection between our health and our lifespan and the trauma that we experience. And one of the things that, even further than some of the things you're talking about in your adult life, if you go even further back, when we talk about the norms, so then there's how we respond to trauma, but then there's also how we are taught to respond.
Exactly.
So we're taught, as particularly Black women, that, you're going to be all right, tough it out. You're the backbone of the family, big mama. Okay. I mean, how many people is big mama supposed to cook for? Her feet are swollen. Okay. how many, I mean, like really, like, and that's a joke in saying that, yes, we all thank you that we were shown love through cooking and through all of those things and that care and nurturing. But when did big mama sit down?
Right. Oh my God.
And we see what happened at the end of Soul Food, right? She died.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably could have been here a lot more, a longer period of time if she had taken care of herself.
Right.
So there's this whole thinking that as a Black woman, that's your role. And it's honorable to endure pain. It's honorable to endure abuse. It means you're strong.
My gosh.
And that's just not true. And it is a generational thing. And I think now I'm just starting to see, and some millennials, I'm not a millennial, right? I'm right past that line. But I'm starting to see like they're not having that. They're like, nope, I'm not doing all of that. Now, there are some things I think that, of course, you can glean from what our elders obviously have taught us about how to be committed, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we confuse commitment with abuse. So, right. And if we're talking about marital relationships, that is supposed to be ministry. So that person ministers to you and you minister to them. But that does not mean, like you said earlier, that you are abused or you're deteriorated in any way. And when you understand that, that means that should free you from believing that a part of this relationship has to be abuse. And the other part of it is understanding what abuse is.
That's good.
So there is physical abuse, there is verbal abuse, there is emotional abuse, there's psychological abuse. And I think some of the abuse that's endured goes on and continues because of a lack of understanding and awareness that it even is abuse. So people don't know that chronic patterns of infidelity, that is abuse. That's emotional abuse. Now, if y'all have some kind of, it's another kind of show, but if y'all got a relationship where that's what both of y'all do and you're both fine with that, that's different. I mean, we living in a different time. So if that's cool with it, that's what you do. You grown, that's what you do. But if two parties have gone into a monogamous relationship or marriage with the intent to be monogamous and one party perpetually breaches that contract, that is abuse. So you have to then say, back to your book, is why would I think that I need to continually, perpetually endure this? That's about who I believe I am or what I've been taught. What are my norms and how do I recognize that this is not okay?
That's so powerful. And like I said, you're dead on. And we experience these traumas because of learned behavior, you know. And you said something that was so key. A lot of times we go through and we think that because we're going through, that makes us even stronger, even more powerful. I remember from my previous marriage, going through at the young version of Mary J, you know, at 16 years old, who loved the Lord with all her heart and her soul, and accepted the Lord at 13 years old as a little girl. And you know, having this marriage that I had, it was an arranged marriage because I was with child. You know, I came from a very traditional background, a very religious background, and you'll hear me talk about how much I hate religion too in the book. I came from this background, so you know, my vows to me were sacred because my mom and dad, they're still together. We have a family of 8. I have 6 brothers and 1 sister. So I saw them stick it out. I saw them go through things and just stayed. And so when I was going through this abuse, I didn't know how to navigate this. Here I am, this young girl at the time, at 17 years old. I didn't know anything but to pray. That's what I knew. So that's what I did. And I remember when I would share things with my mom, and you know, and she's been the person that she is, my mom. You all would love her. But my mom is so poised and articulate, and so, you know, she's Miss Prissy. She was, and her thing was stay and pray, stay and pray. God is gonna make a way. So I did what I thought that I was supposed to do, and I didn't confide in anyone. I didn't share with anyone. I stayed and I prayed, and in the spirit inside of me was like, this isn't something, you know, because my vow says to death do its part. So I had to do my part, and I knew that I was not going to leave, but I didn't understand because the way that we're taught, the things that we see. Like you said, this new millennial, we're not dealing with that foolishness. You know, they're not by no means are we condoning divorce at all. I believe that if you can work it out and you support each other and you all can come together and agree to disagree, and you want to work through it and stand strong through it. But by any means, should anyone stay through abuse, you know, and you've broken down the different areas of abuse.
And that's what I was going to say. So, you know, we always do this thing where I want to just jump in, because when you talk with pastors and religious leaders, they always give you that disclaimer. Like, yeah, but don't stay for abuse. But are you teaching them what abuse is? And does that mean when they're being called out of their name, told that they're nothing, told that you won't be anything without me, you know, you look horrible in that, or why'd you do that, or constant criticism? That's abuse. So when they give that little side disclaimer, yeah, but stay in you know, and you know, if you can work it out, but don't stay through. It's almost like that disclaimer is thrown in there to kind of like take the heat off of them just in case it's abusive. No, now it's time you have to educate your parishioners and your members and your flock about what abuse is. You can't just throw that out there. Oh, but don't stay. Yeah, if your mate or husband is perpetually cheating on you, that's you have made a commitment to monogamy. Y'all don't have an open relationship or whatever it is they're doing. If you have a commitment to monogamy and that person is constantly breaching that commitment, that is abuse. So, you know, but that's kind of a sticky area, because then you're getting in people's business. And then, like, you know, our leadership in church, they don't want to address that, because that would mean like you kind of looking at what's going on with me. So I would say that, yes, you certainly should be committed to your marriage. You certainly should, seek to heal any areas that you need to heal. But one thing you cannot do is heal for another person.
Right.
And so one of the things we confuse is that, oh yeah, let's go get counseling. I get calls all the time from people, one party of the relationship who's gung-ho about it. I'm already clear that the other party, based on what you said, is gone. The marriage is over. But because you cannot fight and heal on your own a marriage. A marriage is a unit. It requires 2 people. So unfortunately, what people think is that if we go to couples therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Couples therapy is not going to heal the trauma that you endured and you have to heal from. That's you. You have to go to therapy on your own. So what I often do is recommend you go to therapy and you go to therapy. Then you all come back together, because if you don't heal those individual issues, when you come together, like your book said, it's going to explode. You have to deal with those individual issues before you think you can heal something that's supposed to be a unit, a whole. You can't do that if two pieces are broken. So I think that's important too, is people always say, get counseling. Well, listen, it's not my counseling. I don't need counseling if you're abusing me. Right. You need it. Now, I need counseling to understand my worth and to understand how I ended up in that situation, right? And to learn coping skills and learn to emotionally grow and recognize abuse for what it is. So yes, I need counseling. But in terms of making the marriage be a marriage, abuse is a deal breaker. Let me just put that out there. Abuse of any kind is a deal breaker. Now, if you choose to separate, to each of you get counseling and then pray and then see, if there's some growth, because God can change people and hearts, we know that, then that's totally up to you. But if there is abuse, number one, there should be no couples therapy. Let's just start there. So any pastor, any therapist, any person who says we're going to do couples therapy and there's abuse involved, they are negligent in practice.
Wow.
Because that is not something that you do. That means that, because what can happen is if there is abuse involved in that marriage and you're aware, and you take those two people in a couples therapy, you have a session, something is opened up in that session, they go home and now somebody is hurt or harmed because of what happened in the session you had with both of them. So when there's abuse involved, no, there should not be a practitioner worth their salt. Now, there's some people out there that don't know what they're doing, but if someone who has been trained should say, no, you need to get individual treatment, but couples therapy is not recommended when abuse is present in a relationship. It can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. So, I think that's always the go-to for that. But I mean, like, what therapy is there for you busting me in my head? Calling me out of my name? Is there a therapy? I don't know of one. No, it's called safety. But the first thing I'm going to do is a safety plan with you. Mm-hmm. Do you feel safe? If you don't, how can we make sure you're safe? Do you have a plan if you have to get out of this situation? That's the only thing I can help you with, is to first take care of your safety. And in terms of our spirituality and our Christianity, one of the things that has been in my spirit for the last few years, every time there's any kind of condemnation, or anytime there's any kind of doubt, or anytime there's any kind of, error that's made, you have to remember you're the apple of God's eye. That's what the Bible says. That's right. So if you're the apple of God's eye, how do you think God feels about you being treated in that way? You're the apple of his eye. That's what the Bible says. So that doesn't go with abuse. That cannot coexist with you being abused.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. You took me all the way back, to my first marriage at 16 years old. That little girl who was being abused at 16, 17 years old. And because of my upbringing and what I was taught as it relates to prayer and God, and God is going to work it out, stick it out, pray your way through. Of course, I didn't share the depth of the abuse, but I shared, the content of, small portions of what was happening through the process. But I was told to stay and pray, and that's what I learned. And it wasn't, it was something inside to see, because you gotta see this little girl at 16, 17. Mine is not all the way developed, body isn't all the way developed, and spiritual growth is just beginning. And it wasn't until I was at my local church And my spiritual father at that time, age 16, 17, I remember sitting in the mega church all the way at the top of the back balcony. This is a mega ministry. And I remember my spiritual birth father at the time, Bishop Paul S. Martin, saying at the end of his message, there's some woman in here today that is struggling. He doesn't even know this story. I don't even know if I ever told him about it. But he said there's some woman in here that is struggling, going through physical abuse. He said, your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. No one has the right to put their hands on you. And there was like 17 years old, Cassandra. There was like a light bulb went off in my head that was like, wow, I knew it. I knew it.
It was confirmed by the Spirit that was true. And what happens if more pastors say that? That's what we have to hear more of. I don't think we hear enough of that. Mm-hmm. I think we either don't hear anything about these issues, or we hear things that are contrary really to what we know God's nature is, to love us and to cherish us.
Right.
So, there's so much there that can be unpacked, but I think that is the ultimate, is that if your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, why would you, just like, there's certain things that you would not put in or allow to reside in your body.
That's right. Exactly.
You treating it like a temple that goes for, why would you not ensure or expect someone else to treat it in that way?
That's right. And of course, and I'm going to say I have 6 brothers. They didn't know anything about the abuse I was going through because I was not one to talk my business. I didn't share. And so none of them knew until afterwards when I came out of it and I left. But that word that was administered to me from the Holy Spirit, a little girl at 17 years old, realizing I thought I had to stay here for better, for worse, but for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. I thought I had to stick this thing out. I've seen so many people stick it out. Like, so you mean to tell me I don't have to stay stuck? I don't have to go through this abuse? And that, when I tell you, it was like clear as day, because my stand, and I'm not really trying to give myself a badge of honor by any means, but my stand was not that, oh, I was so in love and he must really love me if he's hurting me. That's not what my mind was thinking. My mind was thinking, my vow said, for better, for worse, I got to stick this out. I got to endure this. I have to stand through this. I've seen generation after generation that have gone through some stuff and they came out all right. They stuck it out, so I thought, pray and stay. And I'm praying, but it's not getting any better. So I'm wondering, like, what is wrong with this picture? And it wasn't until I was free, when I had someone to actually say that. He didn't know he was talking to me. I didn't go to him and say, this is happening to me. I know the Lord spoke through him to set me free. And I tell you, I was out of there. I came up at 17 years old with a plan. And I knew that my plan was to get out of there, and God made a way of escape. And I got out of there never to return back. And so even with that, going back to what you said, how we deal with trauma and how we go through, because at that age, at age 17, I remember leaving, grabbing my personal belongings. I remember taking my bedroom set. That's what I do remember taking. I remember getting my brother's truck, asking if I could use his truck, and he didn't know what. And I got my bedroom set with me and 2 other people, and I loaded that truck up and left and never looked back. Only with my bedroom set, my baby, and my belongings. So now fast forward, how much do you tolerate going through life? Now I'm realizing, you know what, girl? You're not tolerating this kind of foolishness. You're not settling. You're not staying stuck. You're not dealing with any of that. So now I'm at another place in my life where it's like, okay, soon as anything looks a little bit familiar to me, I'm out. That looks like the last thing. I'm not staying there, right? And so now I find myself navigating to be dealing with where I am now, writing this book. How much do you tolerate? Looking back over the period of my life and things that I actually tolerated. And now I'm in this marriage of almost 19 years, and devastation is knocking at my door. Took all of the wind out of me. It felt literally, and I remember sharing this with you in your office, like someone came and sucked all of the air out of my body. I was depleted. I was empty, and I did not know how I was going to get through this process. And in the middle of me dealing with all of this, being homeless for 45 days, living in a hotel, because again, that pride, not wanting to tell anybody what I'm dealing with, because at this time I'm a woman of God in the church. I'm serving, I'm handling ministry. I'm leading over 50 auxiliaries and members everywhere. So now, like, I need counseling, I need prayer, I need all that I was giving out. I need that who's gonna be there for me, and I had to come into realization, girl, look, listen. You need to get through, you need to go to counseling. You need someone to talk you through this. And it was really to pour out, because there weren't any outlets. Because, like you said, they don't have a whole lot of classes that's actually saying this. So now when you have all of this and you're in the church and you're pastoring along with your partner, who do you tell these things to?
I think the first thing, as you were speaking, what was really in my heart and my spirit is to say to whomever watches this, whether they're watching live or they're watching on the replay, do not beat yourself up. Do not feel bad. Do not feel guilty. Do not feel less than because of what you've experienced. You are not your experiences. And so even if you find yourself in a situation that is abusive currently, or you have in the past, do not take that on as a badge of your identity. That's not who you are. That's something that you experienced. And so don't get stuck in feeling like I'm so embarrassed, because that's what you're talking about. There's
That was me.
There's pride. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I'm dealing with this. And that's what stops people from getting help. I don't want anybody to know that I'm actually dealing with this. So whomever is listening, do not allow fear or pride. Please know that every woman has experienced some sort of 1 in 3 girls. 1 in 3. So all you have to do is count 1, 2, 3. So please do not feel like I feel so bad. I can't believe I was silly enough or stupid enough or dumb enough. Yes. That's something that the enemy will use to keep you stuck. That's not who you are. That's not who you are. The persons who should feel guilty and embarrassed are the perpetrators of the abuse, not you. Because that speaks to who they are, not to who you are. So that was just something that was in my heart to say, because I think that stops a lot of women from getting help.
Right.
A lot of people and a lot of men. There are a lot of men who are sexually abused who do not disclose it ever. Ever. And so, that fear of somebody saying something about their sexuality, or that fear that they won't be looked at as a man, or that fear and they don't want to appear vulnerable. This runs very deep in men and women, that fear will prevent them from seeking help. So know that this is not everything about what happened speaks to the person who is the abuser, not you. It has nothing to do with your worth, your value, or who you are. It says nothing about you and everything about them. So that's something that I think will allow you, and you keep that in your mind, to seek the help that you need, because no one is saying to you, oh my gosh, I can't believe. No, people are really applauding you when you step forward. Don't believe the enemy. That's lies from hell. Oh, what are they going to say? You know what they're going to say? Oh, I'm so glad you said something, because it happened to me too. That's what they're going to say. And so let God use you as a vessel. When you disclose and you're open and you're not fearful, you free other people as well. So Absolutely. Seek help, seek the help that you need.
Absolutely. That is so good. So well said, Cassandra, because, even when I was going through my struggle in my process, and the pride and the shame and the guilt. And, I felt the enemy playing tricks in my mind. I felt bamboozled. I felt like, how did you not see this, one of God? You're so discerning, woman.
That is. Yeah, that's nothing but the enemy.
How were you not recognizing these signs? So that is so key that you share that with our listening viewers that are watching. You can get help. You can step and don't feel that it's you by yourself, and when we get caught up into wanting to mind our business, we feel like, okay, I'm not going to get involved, or I'm not going to talk to her about that, or I'm just going to pray for her from a distance. Do you know I was crying out for help? Do you know that I really wanted someone to say, how are you, woman of God? I really wanted someone to say, how are you doing right now? I really wanted someone to say, even after the divorce, after how ugly it was and the stuff that I endured, and losing my job while I'm on vacation. Who does that? But through all of that, I really wanted someone to ask, what happened? What happened? I was crying out for someone please ask me what happened. Because it was at a point where I wanted to release it. And so what you're saying right now, and I am so thankful to God for giving me Women of Treasure organization. Women of Treasure to tap into the untapped potential in women and to pull out their treasures of life. And I believe that's why God used me in this way to reach women right where they are. I have, like, there's nothing that you can say to me to make me raise my eyebrow up, because I've done it all, seen it all, heard it all, been through it all. I understand. That's why I deal with real people with real issues. And that's why God has given me this platform, Real Talk Mary J. He told me, Cassandra, that I would be saved from silence when he gave me this platform, a social outlet for a positive outcome. I'm one that never talked to anybody about anything personal. And he said, once you get on this platform and begin to open your mouth, that you will be saved from silence. And everyone that listens to you, nations will be saved. People will be healed and set free because they think that they're in this thing all by themselves. So I am so glad that you shared that and brought that out. So how much do you tolerate? How much do you guys really tolerate? What is your tolerance level? That's what we're talking about on today. Cassandra, I remember after we developed a relationship outside of our professional circle, and we gelled one-on-one quite a few times at different little events and things that I have. And I remember you saying something to me, and you said, Mary, because professionally you always address me by my name of Miss Irons. You was like, Miss Irons. You was like, Mary. This is when we outside of you. Was like, I just didn't understand. Like, when you first came into my office, you were all put together with your iPad, so professional. Remember saying that to me?
I don't.
You said you were all put together with your iPad and so professionally and so poised and articulate. I would not have ever known that you were dealing with this kind of trauma. I never would have known that you were going through all of that. And so you said that at the beginning of this conversation. You might see that person who is all put together, it seems, that they got their I's dotted and their T's crossed, but you don't know the depth of the experiences of what that person is really dealing with or have dealt with, as a matter of fact. But I remember when you said that, I thought to myself, yeah, woe is me, right? I was the one full of pride that was like, I don't need nobody to counsel me. Ain't nobody getting in my business. I'm not telling my business to anybody. But listen, Cassandra, I am so grateful for you. And as more and more as we talk, I'm grateful even more of all of the wealth of information that you share. And will you let the people know where they can find you? How can they get in touch with you? And if they need services, let them know what they need to do.
Sure. So we have an agency full of licensed, experienced therapists who, if you go to opsfamilycare.com, There's information there about the staff as well as our agency. You can reach us via that. There's some email and contact information you can submit there, or you can call our main office at 504-367-6888, 9:30 to 6:30 p.m. But really knowing that there are people that can help you. And we are experiencing working in trauma and in areas of trauma, but there are also a wealth of other therapists that are there. So even if you want to get information on, seeking help somewhere in your area, we can try to do that as well for you. We also provide telehealth. So depending upon where you're located, we can provide services through telehealth as well. But the most important thing I would say is to seek the help that you need. And one of the things that are very important is to get to the point where you recognize, I know my worth and it's okay. I can make steps toward helping myself one step at a time. That's our agency's tagline. You're here, restoring wholeness to families, one outreach at a time. So even if you're still fearful, even if you're still uncertain, take one step, and that can be simply you recognizing, I want more, and I am more, and I am the apple of God's eye. So that means that you can pursue the help that you need, whether it's from our agency or someone else. So, even if you have to do it afraid, do it afraid.
Wonderful. Even if you have to do it afraid, do it afraid. I see that we're kind of slow with the media catching up with my mouth. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. It was a little slow picking up the process of that. So even guys, if you have to do it afraid, I agree. Do it afraid. You take the first step. You make the first move. Get out of your head, because your head will block you and stop you. The committees in your mind will begin to tell you, you don't need to talk to anybody. You don't need anybody in your business. You don't need to go over there. You don't need to tell your story. People are going to judge you. I had all of those committees in my head, and I do this on a day-to-day basis. I'm always empowering others and praying for others and sharing with others. And then yet when it's you and you go through, those committees will begin to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't, but be encouraged because there's still hope. How much do you tolerate on today? We share that topic in depth. You'll find that chapter in my latest book, you guys, Real Talk with Mary J. You'll find that right in the book Intrigue. You can pick up a copy of Intrigue on July 23rd, which is my birthday. So I hope you all will be celebrating with me. And by doing so, that receiving a copy of my book. Let me just put it up on the screen for you guys. And hopefully you all will be able to get a copy, shifting the paradigm of your life to receive positive, life-changing results. So there you have it. Intrigue. It's coming to you live and available on Amazon. We'll be doing live reviews throughout the entire month. I want you all to tell your friends to go share, go like, and go follow Real Talk with Mary J on your social media outlets. And we'll be right here, same place, same time on Monday again. So you can get a copy of this on Amazon.com coming July 23rd, and also at MaryJEnterprise.com. So Cassandra, thank you again for sharing on the show today. Did you have a happy Merry Monday?
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy making sure that, we work together to kind of, like you said, empower people, women particularly, to do and be who their best, can be. So I'm excited for you and happy for your book. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Happy Merry Monday, everybody.